Okay, but let's go over these 10 charts real quick, and you can get these on our website. And I'm going to just say a little bit about them because if you have the whole 2 hours, you're going to have to leave.
Yeah, 6.
Okay. All right. Let me go over these quickly so we got plenty of time to talk to Matt. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll go over these after Matt has to leave because I think these are interesting charts and they're very telling, not for any particular political party, but they're telling because it gives you numbers to exactly what's happened. And we'll go over those in a little while. We've got Matt here. Matt grew up in Louisville, spent some time in
Middle Tennessee.
Middle Tennessee. I grew up in Nashville. It was outside Nashville, in the big town of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where you've got Middle Tennessee State University. That was a trip back when I used to live in Nashville, but now it's almost like Murfreesboro's a suburb of Nashville. So, Matt, even though I tried to teach him better, and I love him, has gone with a lot of ideas that maybe I don't agree with. But you know what? One of the things about this country that I love so much is that you can have ideas different from somebody else, and that's okay. The thing that I always say is you got to be able to talk about them without resorting to name calling and that sort of thing.
10-year-old Andy.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do today. Is it's hard. Yesterday after Rick got off, he and I were talking, and he being a 63-year-old black gentleman, and me being almost 60-year-old and questionable on the gentleman part. We're going to be doing a show that talks about race a lot and race relations and a lot of things that have happened. And I made the statement to him that I can't fully pontificate. There's a good word, right? I know 4 big words. I'm getting one of them out every day.
Get that calendar.
Yeah, get that your word calendar, yeah. And I can't understand from Rick's point of view everything that happened. In race relations, I can tell you back when this busing thing started, I can tell you that what my perspective was when there was rioting at Tennessee State University, and there was a 7 o'clock curfew, and you were arrested if you were out after 7 or out before 7 a.m. the next morning. And I know how that made me feel. I know how it made me feel when I had to pass by an area that was shell-shocked from burning buildings and that sort of thing. So I wanted Matt to be on the show because he lives in Southern California, and one of the main things in Southern California we have to worry about now is this immigration problem. And I want to get his perspective on it. I finally got it out right. I want to get his perspective on it because I don't live in Southern California. I've been to Southern California. I love going to Tijuana. Unfortunately, the first time I ever went, this little boy looked like he's 10 years, maybe 12 years old. A little girl sitting there, 10 years old. And the first thing he comes up to me and says is, "My sister, 50 cents. And I didn't know what he said. And finally, my wife told me that he was offering his sister up for 50 cents. So possibly it wasn't the best place to go all the time. And maybe that wasn't the best of illustrations to use on radio, but we did it anyway. So we've got a few subjects we want to talk about, but I think the person I'd like to talk about is, Matt, I want to get your perspective on immigration and what's going on in Southern Indiana.
I can tell you about what's going on there, too.
Yeah, he lives in Southern Indiana when he comes into town with his mother, but probably Southern California is a little better.
Well, with Southern California, it's, coming from Louisville, Kentucky, and, a pretty nice part of Louisville, Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee was a little bit different, but still, it's, you're still used to a certain way of life, and then all of a sudden, just being in California in general, I mean, getting hit with being on the other side of the country with no family out there, a couple of friends, but, you know, it's plus a city of, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15 million people. And, you know,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff all thrown at you at one time. That's one of the main things you know.
You say no friends, but
not a couple.
He's young, he's good looking. Call in or email the show, and he needs companionship. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so you know, it's one of those things where you just hit with all that all at once, and you know, I try to be, you know, objective about it, but when it's something you got to deal with every single day, not like here, you know, where you might know a few people here and there,
right,
but you don't have to deal with it like you do out there.
And we're basically talking about Mexicans.
Yeah.
All from across the board.
And, you know, especially before I moved out there, several years before I moved out there, the Census Bureau, whoever came out and said that, you know, the white people are the minority now in Southern California.
Wow.
And that is really evident when you walk around the streets up there and you really understand it. So, I'm getting to the age where I'm, you know, paying more attention to where my money is going as far as tax dollars go and stuff like that. And you got to realize that, you know, after paying attention to some things, that my tax dollars are going to pay for healthcare or for, you know, all kind or extra effort on the police department's you know, roles or whoever to look after these people who aren't, you know, not American citizens. And a lot of them don't care to be American citizens. They make money in this country, they send it back home, and, you know, they don't, you know, when there's an American holiday, they don't really observe it, you know, only because their boss says they can have it off, because they really...
Oh, they don't observe. Okay.
And some of them do, but I'm not saying this is for everybody. This is just something I've seen in certain parts of Southern California. But, I mean, they're waving Mexican flags around, you know, not American flags. So it's not like they're making an effort to become Americans. And, you know, some of that I'm sure is pride of where you came from, but why not have a flag in each hand of where you came from, where you are?
Yeah.
If you're really trying to be proud of where you're living. So I don't, you know, I just see it as them kind of like going on vacation for a few years, making money and sending it back home, you know, because I try to have two minds about it and think, well, yeah, I mean, if I lived in a place that wasn't so nice and I could go to this other place that was great and I could make tons of money and wouldn't have to worry about, you know, crooked politicians or my kids being kidnapped.
I mean, we're talking Southern California, crooked politicians do that.
Well, yeah. But, you know, not so much as in the middle of Mexico.
Absolutely not.
So, you know, we still do have some rule of law out there, in some places anyway. But if that was me, of course I would want to go to that other place. But the thing is I wouldn't want to, you know, I would want to make a better life, and I would want to make that my new home. And that's what many people did when they came to America, which is what has made America what it is today. You know,
we are a country of immigrants.
Exactly, and I think that's the unique thing. One of the unique things about America is that we were built upon people coming from all over the world with different ideas and perspectives, and we've all gotten along for the most part. But better, I would say, than any nation or empire in history.
Oh yeah, all you got to do is go back and look at the different Byzantine and all these different eras, and they weren't near as nice.
And they had their underclass, and they ruled them with an iron fist. And of course, now we have had our dark past and stuff, but we've gotten over that because, just like you were talking about earlier with the riots and this and that, I never had to live with stuff like that. I had Rodney King, but you know that was in.
Well, the riot is just the police beating the snot.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, you know, reason for people to be upset over that. But, you know, I didn't have to worry about, you know, the kids I went to school with having to drink from a different water fountain. And, you know, we were raised that if, you know, someone's different from you, there's no reason that they're the same as you. Where, you know, back before it was segregated. So, I mean, I think progressively we're getting better, and, you know, you're not happy about it for a different reason, but not for this, that we have a black president now. You're just.
Yeah, I don't like Barack Obama because he's black. You know,
that's the example of us having a more progressive, you know, future than we have had, and especially with you know, repealing the ban on people openly gay people serving in the military. I think that's a good step in the right direction as well, because
we can talk about that in a few minutes. We'll get to immigration first.
Yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to make a point of how, you know, we are progressing as far as all that goes, but you know, at some point we need to, you know, look at the immigration problem, because it is a problem now, because our economy is going elsewhere. And it's on both ends. You not just have people coming here making money here and sending it back, but we also have jobs going other places, you know, to India and China and whatever else. And that's a big problem for our economy as well, because we used to be the leaders at this, and now we're not. Kind of, our hands are up in the air, and we're going, all right, well, what's next?
Well, I like Matt's dad, Steve, was one of my closest friends in the world. I loved him like a brother. I still do. And you know, Steve was conservative, and somehow Matthew has strayed, but that's okay. And I wanted him to come on the show today because he's in town, and I think a lot of the problems in this country right now is that if you're a liberal, you think conservatives only think about one thing, and if you're a conservative, you think that all liberals are liberal on everything. And I don't necessarily think that's true. But even if it were true, I really want to get his perspective. So that's what we're doing. We're getting a perspective on starting with this immigration thing, because I think it is not being dealt with, and I think that we're going to end up having to deal with it in a way we don't want to if Obama doesn't wake up and start doing something. And wake up and doing something is what has to be done. But you've got a more unique way of looking at this because you're there with it. How much violence are you familiar with, maybe not personally seen, but familiar with?
Quite a bit, actually, because both of my roommates were in the, my previous roommates were in the Coast Guard, stationed there at the Port of Los Angeles, and they were on the enforcement. Well, one of them was mainly enforcement. The other one was part of what they call MSSP, which is kind of like the quote-unquote SWAT for the Coast Guard. Both jobs did not exist before 9/11, by the way.
Wow.
Anyway, so my one roommate did enforcement. He dealt a lot with the sheriff's department there, the port police, the local police, like everybody, anything, DEA, FBI, all that. So
you got kind of a first-hand view of a lot of stuff that's going on that possibly the rest of us don't even know about.
Pretty good idea about what all kind of stuff is going on there, and you know, everything from them, how they would smuggle drugs in and how they would drop people off and stuff like that. And it's smuggling drugs and people were essentially hand in hand. And just like a lot of other, especially in Europe as well, the underclass generally is the ones that have a lot of criminal activity because they're undereducated and they come on a whim and don't really do things legally to get here in the first place. So they're all, you know, not all, but for the most part, kind of thrown in with those things together. And, you know, I have friends who are teachers there, and their classes have mostly Mexican children in a lot of them. And, you know, a lot of them are some really good kids, but then, you know, you always get your troublemakers just like you do anywhere else. But, you know, it's different when your troublemaker is, you know, if he's yelling out curse words or if he's bringing a gun to school. You know, and those are problems that...
Yeah, I made the point yesterday that when Rick and I were talking that stuff that we used to get suspended for 3 days for, they don't even try to discipline you on now because it's such a minute problem in comparison to 50 years ago.
Yeah, think about some of the neighborhoods these kids live in, like Compton or East LA or whatever, South Central. You know, when they go home, there's probably guns and drugs all over the table. I mean, you know, then they're going to go to class and, you know, and brag about this or that, or, you know, they're going to have that home lifestyle brought into class with them around all the other kids. They're all in the same neighborhood. I mean, and there's places there that police don't even go.
Yeah, and we've got to really clearly focus in on the problem. The problem is not immigration. The problem is illegal immigration.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people, you know, if you try to have this argument with, oh, you're racist or you're this or that, and I don't care if it's Canadians coming here. Yeah. I want them to pay taxes. I want them to want to be Americans. I want them to do things properly. And